Okay, we are on Daf. We didn't learn much last week. One night. All right, it's got 2 nights, and then the night we got back, we decided we're going to learn. Yeah. So anyway, so you didn't miss much. What? We are on Daf. Samach Gimel Rav. Halach Vav. Yeah, we got up to that. Shuma Dayanim. When Dayanim evaluate land for an Amona or a Grusha to sell in order to realize their Ksuva, Shepacha Shtus or Hosir Shtus, if they're 6 off, 6 too much or 6 too little, Mircham Bata, the sale is non-boiled. Rishon Omer Mircham Kain, the sale is valid. Him Kain, because if not, in other words, if we would not say so, Makoch Basin Yofe, what is the authority of Basin selling? The fact that Solon Basin must give them an advantage over if in a private individual sells, because we said in the previous mission, if the Amon is off by even $1, so the sale is null and void. But Basin must have some leeway. That must be the advantage of selling Basin, so you can be off by up to 6, which of course is the shiur or no, normally by Metaltlin, but here we also apply that shiur to Karkos as well. Now that's only true if they didn't write an Igeris Bikoris. Igeris Bikoris, the Gemara explains what that is in the Gemara. That means a letter of critique. Unless Igeris Bikoris, if they sold it with 100 or 200, or Shavim Masayim B'mona, or 200 for 100, Michon Kain, the sale is valid. Kamana Tomar Behedio Bekarkat Shlish. So it says more, just like you say, by a commoner, by land, the shiur of Ono is a third. Now a third is really a half, because a half on the outside, half on the inside is a third on the outside. For example, if the land is worth $10, and I overcharge by 5, that's half of 10, but it's a third of the new sum, which is 15, right? So that's overcharging by karka. So karka shlish, metalton shtus, by metalton it's up to a 6, right? Which is half of a third. Same thing, right? So the kavos is so too of a hekdesh. By hekdesh, we're more machmer. I actually don't remember this principle from the Bavli. I don't think it is in the Bavli. But it says by hekdesh, the shiur that hekdesh can be ripped off is bekarka shtus, is by land up to a 6, and by metalton not yud base, and by mul objects up to a 12. So we're more machmir by hekdesh than by hedyot. By a commoner, the rip-off range is higher than the range which we have for hekdesh. It's an interesting concept. Now, Talmud today we learned. No, not me, because hekdesh sold it, but they have the right to renege on the deal, right? Because of that reason. Talmud we learned over there. Shumi Yisrael Mishloshim Yom. When we reckon the property of orphans, we put out public tenders for 30 days to see the highest bid we can get. Shum Hekdesh, for Hekdesh, it's longer. It's Shishim Yom. So I also see it to be double the parameters, right? And we pronounce, when we put out the tender, so they didn't have newspapers in the old days, the town criers used to do it. So they make an announcement in the morning and at night. The Lama Shloshim, why 30 days? In order to give the maximum amount of time for the greatest amount of potential buyers to show up. So let them announce more than 30 days. Why only until 30 days? Again, this discussion I don't remember it all from the Bavli either. For up to 30 days, it's their advantage. Above 30, beyond it, we can't actually disadvantage of that, because people say, that land's been on the market for a long time and it hasn't sold. So the bids will begin to decline after 30 days. So by hekdesh, let's also be afraid. You said we put out tenders for 60 days. Let's be afraid that after 30 days, the amount of money people are willing to give will decline, right? So says the Gemara, no. Shani hekdesh. Hekdesh is different. By Hekdesh, once he submits a bid, he can't withdraw it. Hekdesh can go back to him. So by the Yisraelim, we wait 30 days and for another bidder to come. And the first bidder who's rejected can walk away. So that's why now more than 30 days, because after 30 days we begin declining again. But by Hekdesh, even if after 30 days it begins declining again, the first bidder is locked in. And if Hekdesh decides that they want to give it, that he's the best bid they got, they can go back to him afterwards. Okay? So it's like, Hekdesh is like a neder, not just a purchase. So he's stuck. He's got to keep. So therefore, Hekdesh never loses. So the natural question is, if that's the case, so why stop at 60 days? Let them just go on with a public tender until they get the price they want. Says the Gemara, no. The dialectish, they have to make some shiur. So dialectish, sheik flying kedur. So not to make hektish twice, they didn't go any need to go any further than that. Rabbeinu said, Min ma'adatam, for that which you said, shani hektish. Hektish is different. Shein teifes rishon, that the first bidder is locked in. Literally, you grab the first one. Shatayvis rishon, the first one who comes in order, you lock in. Adamras teaches us, sheim yimtu shumon, that if they find that they get the price that they want, she'ein machzirin umachlitin, that they don't go back that they don't go back to the second one. It means one guy offered $500. They waited 10 days more. Another guy offered $500. So by head deal, the first guy's bid is rescinded, right? You go to the second guy. If you waited, you rejected the first guy's offer, right? But by hekdesh, if you got so you can go back, you don't take it away from the first guy. Because since his bid is sealed in, so it's not fair to take it away from him if all you're getting is equivalent from the next guy. So by Yisraelim or by anyone else, since the first guy's not locked in, once you rejected him, when you get an equivalent bid later on, you give to the second guy. But by hekdesh, since the first guy's bid is locked in, so therefore it's really only fair. I don't think this chiddush, but if he's bound, you should be bound to him as well, and you go back to the first guy. Okay? So that's what it means here. According to Pnei Moshe, at least the Karmeida says something different, which is a little bit difficult. But that's what Pnei Moshe says, that by Adamra, Shim Yimtzu Shuman, Shem Machzir Machlitin, if they find the same value later on, that they don't go back and give it to the second guy, but rather they give it to the first guy. Don't go back means they don't renege on the deal. Okay? And we make the announcements in the morning and at night. When the workers go out to work, when the workers come in for work. And when you now make the announcement, you pronounce what field it is and its boundaries. It's simanim, where its boundaries are. Rabbi Yossi said, actually, that's the end of the sentence. Rabbi Yossi said, and either Carbon Ada changes it, and Pnei Moshe changes it a different way, but it means the same thing. Rabbi Yossi, B'Shem Matzu, not B'Shalom Matzu. B'Shem Matzu, Shumad Machlitin. If Basin doesn't hold out for the highest bidder, at least in our case, maybe by hekdesh they would, but in our case, Basin reckons the value of the field. If they get it, they should go ahead and sell it. In a case where hekdesh, maybe we would wait for a higher bidder. But in our case, then Basin got what they wanted from somebody, so just give it to him. Okay, that's what it means. Matzu Shuman Machlitin. Okay? So it says in Gemara, Dumas Nisa. That's our Mishnah, right? I think it's a proof, if I recall correctly. Not a question. It's a proof. Dumas Nisa, Mishnah says, it's Shuma Dayonim, and the valuation of Dayonim, Shepachsu Shtus O Siru, Shtus, if they went down to 6 or up at 6, Mircham Bata sells some void. Because they went up and down. But if they found their precise measure, what they reckon, machlitim, then they give the field to whoever, or for them, they continue to make public tenders. Says more, but maybe it's where they continue the tenders. I know that it's out. I guess what Rabbi Yossi was saying is, even where they didn't have to make any tenders, once they got what they reckoned for, the first buyer stepped to the plate on day one and offered that suffices. So he says, how do you know? Maybe it's only after you went to the 30 days. How do you know that it's at the beginning? If you got that value, that price, so you go buy it. So again, his question is, how it's about kids who didn't actually make a tender? Mean the Basra. I'll tell you why, because later on in the Mishnah, it says, it says later on in the Mishnah, the only time they could be off is if they made an Igeres Bikores. Then they could off by more than a sixth, up to double or up to half. Mal Igeres Bikores. What's Igeres Bikores? Rabbi Omer Achroza. Rabbi says it's a pronouncement. So it means that in order to be up by a half or down by a half, you need an announcement. But if you're going to get what you want, then you can take it without the announcement as long as it's not off by a sixth. So the announcement, the tender, is not essential if Basin gets its price. It really only becomes essential if Basin doesn't get its price, and then, as a result of their having gone through the tender, even if they're way off in either direction, the sale is a valid sale. Okay? That's how we learn the Mishnah. All right, now, the Gemara goes on and says, Ula bar Yishmo, but it's missing a line, which the Corbinator supplies. And it's a brisa. I'll just read you outside. You don't have to look at Corbinator. The Corbinator is just one line. Tani, we learned their brisa. Avodim ushvachos ushtoros, slaves, male and female, documents, umetaltalin, and movable objects, ein lem igeres bikoris. We don't put out legal tenders for them. Why not? Says more Ula bar Yishmo, because you know the Gemara. Ula bar Yishmo says, Avodim, you don't make illegal tenders, shlo yivrechu. If they know they're for sale, they're going to flee. Ushtaras metaltlin, why not? Shlo yigonvu. People know that they're for sale, then they're going to be stolen. So therefore, we don't make legal tenders for them. Public tenders. Rabbi Bob Arnosan Kohen Boya Kumi Rabbi Yossi. We asked in front of Rabbi Yossi the following question. From this should we not derive that an Eved is redeemed on the base of three evaluators? Why? Amarle in said yes. You're right. We derived that. Why do we derive that? Because the other alternative is 10. And 10 is very public. If you say an evidence evaluated by 10 evaluators, then the author is going to find out about it and flee, right? So therefore it must be that we evaluated the evidence only with 3 evaluators. Because otherwise, in that way, maybe the evidence won't realize what's going on and he won't flee. So he said yes. That must be the pshat. Or that must be the halacha. Says Marai, but what about the following price? Actually, it's a Mishnah. And then we learn, Karkos, in order to redeem land, it's got to be Tisha, 9 people, Vik Kohen, and a Kohen among them. No, not among them, besides them. 9 Israelim, at least 1 Kohen. That's by Karak Hekdesh. Vardam Kayetzibam. And a man is similar. So it means a man requires 10 people in order to redeem him. Or in order to sell him. Amar Lacey said no. Adam, it should be it's Shekan, not Shekain. The man here in this Mishnah, which appears in Sanhedrin, Ben Chorin, who is talking about a free man who consecrated his value to Hekdesh. So he's not fleeing anywhere. So for him, the U.S. made with 10 people. But an Eved is indeed a value with 3 people. Okay? Chanane Beshali Hashem Rav said, Asu Kumi Rebbe, a case come for a King Rebbe, boy Mevik Rabbi, you want to like Rabbanah that if they're off even a little bit, then the sale's on void, even though it's uninvasive. Amal Rebbe Lezer in part, Lezer in part, Beminosh Rebbe Lezer in part, Lezer in part to the grandson of another Rebbe Lezer in part, said, Lo Kelima Tana B'Shem Zakenach, Did you teach us the name of your grandfather? Eli Cain also Igeris Bikores, unless they made an Igeris Bikores, which means that he made Igeris Bikores you can be off by even more. But even without Igeris Bikores you can be off by up to a sixth. So Igeris Bikores gives you the right, the public tender gives you the right to be off by way off, but at least up to the sixth. The Chazar Be'eh and Take Rabbi Reneg, that we say Makoch based in Yofe, and we say therefore that the Vilna based in Zof the cells of valid cell. Okay? Halachasai. Hayisoima. Oh, goes north, and the question is, well, why is she included in this Mishnah? The more is going to discuss that. Fashni, a woman who's a forbidden liaison to Rabbana. Violence, a woman who's barren. Ain't lo ksuba, when they get divorced or their husbands die, they get no ksuba. Lo peiros, they have no fruit, and the more is going to explain what that means. Lo mazonos, they have no food. The more is going to explain that also. The lo blayas, if when the marriage ends, they don't even get to take the rags of the clothes that they wore out of the marriage with them. However, if he knew at the time he married her that she was barren, so yesh lo ksuba, he committed and she has a ksuba. If a widow married a kohen girl, grusha chalutza kohen ediot, a divorcee or chalutza married a regular kohen, mamzeres v'nesin l'Yisrael, a mamzeres or nesin who married a regular Yisrael, or baz Yisrael and nasin mamzer, the other way, regular Yisrael is married a mamzer or nasin. All these, even though they're forbidden relationships and they are forbidden dorais, yesh lein ksuba, they do have ksuba, and more is going to discuss why. So it says manicha shniya islandis. Understand, a shniya and islandis, they're not really marriages, so therefore they don't get ksuba. But yisoima, why shouldn't yisoima get a ksuba? What, poor girl suffers enough? Why should not get a ksuba? Yisoima and la ksuba. Rabbi Chizka, Rabbi Avo B'Shem Yochanan said, "Tipat yisoima shemiyano." We're talking about yisoima who was married by her brother or her sister or her mother, or for that matter by herself, and therefore she can repudiate the marriage. When she repudiates the marriage, it's not divorce, it's not death, so therefore she gets no ksuva. That's what we're talking about. Okay? Yisoima shemiyano. Rabbi Aivu by Nagre, Rabbi Ami said an interesting point. Kishem shekantzubo kach kantzubo. Just like they find her, in other words, that she gets no ksuva, so too they find him. In all these cases, by Yisoima, by Shniya and Islanders, both of them got fined. How did they get fined? She got fined that she lost her ksuva, right? How does she get fined? Laida Mila, for what matter? Shemkicha Belicha Joseph, if he married her with a bucket full of gold, Shumahabid Esakol, he loses everything. Basically, she gets to keep the ring, right? In other words, even though we go back to the husband, right, because the marriage is null and void, but they find him that the ring goes key because she gets the key. Interesting thing. Period. The low payros. Then we said, in all these cases, no payros. What does it mean, low payros? Rabbi here said, she'ein lo oleh el achilas payros bilvad. That he doesn't have upon her only the right to eat fruit. Now it means that she doesn't get reimbursed for the fruit that he ate, and also he's not required to redeem her if she's taken to captivity. Normally it says tiknu peirosea tachas pirkoino. We gave him the right to the fruit, the husband, in order that he should redeem her if she's taken captive. But here in this case it's the marriage to an islandess or to a shniya. It's not a proper marriage. He gets to eat peiros and she doesn't get to be redeemed, nor does she get reimbursed for the fruit itself. Okay? So that's what it means. All that there is fruit. That's a one-way street. That's what it is. Tari, now we have a little bit of an interjection here. Tari Rabbi Yossi Tzidon Noyakum Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yossi ben Tzidon said Rabbi Yirmiyah, and he argued Rabbi Yirmiyah. He said there are other things. He said the same about pairs, and then he argued. And he said, the husband also gets b'mtziasa, stuff which she finds, there, stuff which she produces, whoever there, he can also annul her vows. even though the marriage is not a valid marriage, but he has all those rights as long as they are considered, as long as they're technically married. Now, let's go back to the fruit. Mal lo peiros. What does lo peiros mean? Wherever he ate, that's her tough luck. He gets to keep it. She can't extract from him money. Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said, "B'chol shrav Rabbi Hila Amar Li." All the time, Rabbi Chia would say to me, "Tani mas." Rabbi Hila would say to me, "Tani mas nisa yorsha matami law." That the Brisa tells us that he can inherit her and be matami for Levaya. The Tani Rabbi Chia came. Yet the Rabbi Chia taught like this: Matami wadam lishto kshera, veina matami lishto psula. Man can only be matami for his wife who's kosher to him, and not his wife who's supposed to. So it's actually a contradiction which Gemara is not going to resolve. That in one case it says you can't go to Levi if you're a Kohen of a Shni or an island. You say you're married, the same way you're married to. The other case it says you can. So we don't know how to reconcile these prices, which seem to contradict each other. Rabbi Avun. Anyway, we go on. Rabbi Avun boy, kumi Rabbi Mona. Rabbi Avun asked in front of Rabbi Mona, Avdi Shniyus Ma'aru She'echlu B'Truma. The slaves of a Shniya, can they eat Truma? She's forbidden to her husband, the Kohen. Can they eat Truma? So he says a very interesting thing. He says, Amar Leisa, he said, Shtok, shut up. And it's good for you to shut up. Why? Hiochelis. You got it wrong. She eats. Even though her marriage is no good to Rabbana, because she's a Shniya, she isn't the Rabbana. But Midaraisa, she eats Truma. The rabbis didn't take away from her that right to eat Truma. Why? Because she requires a cat. She's really married, Midaraisa. So therefore she gets to eat Truma. Who doesn't get to eat Truma? Vavodea. Her slave she doesn't get to eat. That they deprived her, that the right to her slave should eat, but she herself they gave her the right to eat. And assume again that people shouldn't think it's not a valid marriage, and that the marriage can go and be dissolved scot-free. So people should realize that get is required, so they make left in place that she gets to do Truma, even though this marriage is a result of a liaison between Yisurei the Rabbanan and Yisurei Erev the Rabbanan.
Even though she doesn't get a ksuba in such a marriage.
Right. You know she's not going to get it soon. And now Gemara is going to discuss actually that obliquely, but the Gemara is going to come on to that. Okay, it says Gemara, Tamatzanina, we learned it over there. Geta Musa, a get which is compelled by Israel, by Jews, is kosher. If a goyim to get is compelled by non-Jews, it's possible. Shmuel Amar. Shmuel says, puzzle. The get is puzzle if Kohen compelled it, but at the same time, puzzle kuna. A Kohen, if it was a Kohen's wife who got it, she'll need another get. But that get puzzles her for kuna. I mean, if it's not a Kohen's wife, it doesn't matter whose wife it is. Because the woman gets such a get, it's a get which is puzzle, but she's puzzle kuna. That's called in the Bavli Reach HaGet. Shmekt fun HaGet. So therefore, she's puzzle kuna. Okay? Now, Shmuel Amar, Ein Ma'asin, when are we divorce the divorce? The only time it's divorce is Almona L'Kohen Gadol. El Kohen Almona L'Kohen Gadol. In such case, Almona married to Kohen Gadol. Kusha Chalutza Kohen Hedyot. And a divorcee or a Chalutza to a regular Kohen. What didn't we learn that Shnios also you compel a divorce? So Mora doesn't answer that. Mora leaves that dangling. Now the Mora goes on to something else. Mora says, Lo b'gido amar Shmuel. Shmuel did not agree to the following case. What's the following case? V'atzina, didn't we learn? Amari Sishto Milahenos Achlo Shloshim Yom. A man who takes a vow that his woman may not derive benefit for him for the next 30 Milahenos, sorry, that his wife cannot get benefit for him. Achloshim Yom Yami Panas. For 30 days he can have somebody set up somebody to feed her, to sustain her. Yoitzim if it's more that Yoitzim he thinks Suva. In that case, he must divorce her and give her a ksuba. So in that, why does Shmuel not agree with this? Because it says, Shamanu Shumotzi. Because all we see here is Motzi. He's got to divorce her. Shamanu Shekoifin. Do you think that we heard that we can compel a divorce? Interesting distinction. We can request a divorce. We can pass a divorce in certain cases, but if it's not an Isser Mamish, we can't compel a divorce. That's what Shmuel's distinction is. If the woman is forbidden because it's a Grusha Chalutza to a Kohen, then we can compel a divorce because the woman is also. But if it's a situational thing, we're compelling a divorce because of like Shalom bias issues, because he took an oath not to sustain her, so then we can tell him you must divorce her, but we can't compel him to divorce her. And Amud Yerushalmi on the bottom has a discussion: can we compel him by a verbal tongue lashing, or is that also called compelling? Or we just paskin for him and not even rebuke him and tell him to give a divorce? But the Pasha says that you can rebuke him, but you can't use physical force. You only use physical force where the woman is puzzled to him, where it's a avera to live together, not where circumstances dictate that a divorce should occur.
There are circumstances such as times of shiur.
Yeah, that's tantamount to psula guf.
But that's not an issue.
That's true. Mukashrin is not, but that's tantamount to psula guf, I would think. You're right. The Gemara is not discussing those here. But here, this is a situational thing. Although I don't know, I don't remember by Mukashkin when it does, to what extent we're kaifa there. Do we actually beat him? I think we do, but I don't remember. Okay. So you have to say that's also like Psula Guf. Says the Gemara, Shamanu Mavin Elu. Now going back to our Mishnah, what's the difference between Shnios who don't get a ksuva, who don't get a ksuva, and Amar L'Kohen Gadol Gusha Chalutza B'Kohen Ediot who do get a ksuva? What's the difference? So it says Elu Aideshin to Divrei Torah. Vein Divrei Torah Tzurchem Chizuk. The rices don't require strengthening. The Pichalesh them ksuva, they're we get a ksuva. Ve'elu Shnios Aideshin Divrei Soifim, since the prohibitions are the Rabbanan, the Divrei Soifim Tzurchem Chizuk, and the Rabbanans require fortification. That's why they have no ksuva. In order to be mechazik to Rabbanans. East the boy Maimer, those who wanted to say, these where their fines are in their hands, uviyad vlad, and in the hands of their kids. Meaning a mamzer going go mamzer. Kid is a mamzer. Mono going go, kid is a cholo. Zer mischalo, and the kids are chalolim. In a case where it's a mamzer, so they don't become chalolim, but they become chol lakuna, right? So the women become chol lakuna, and the kids become either chol lakuna or even worse, mamzerim, right? So there's a graphic knas, right? What's that? The knas of their status. The yadan and their answer yad of lat. The lo katsu boyen. And therefore they didn't need to make a fine in them. I lost my place. Yeah, that's what they're. They didn't have to make a fine in them. However, the women who don't have shnios, where there is no inherent fine in them or in their kids, so then they have to make them lose their ksuva. Okay? No interpretation.
Why does she get the control?
What?
There should be a fine that she should You said before that
no, that's part of parcel because the Rabbanon, they wanted to remind you that it's a doraisa, that the raisa they're married. So therefore the gzeros they made are, how should I put it, are extrinsic. As opposed to where there's an intrinsic problem. Then they didn't dabble in the extrinsic. So in order to demonstrate that it's extrinsic, the gzeros they made were in the extrinsic area of ksuva, not in the internal area of the vlad. But where the psula is inherent, intrinsic, in the vlad, there, on the contrary, they didn't dabble in the extrinsic, so you know the difference between the two. Okay, that's what I think the difference is. Okay? I'm sorry, I skipped him. I got confused here. I was stopped in the middle of the line and I got confused. These, since they don't get fine in their hands of Yad of Lat and has their kids, that's where they're calling them the other thing, the Ksuba. Pilrein Link Ksuba. Mano Vinaim, what's the difference between two approaches? I'll tell you. If you took back a divorcee after she had married somebody else. If you're going to say Takaz, she can do it the Raisa the Rabbanan. Since this is the Raisa, so she gets a Ksuva. That when they get a Ksuva, where they're going to find intrinsically in their psul and the psul of the kid, a woman who's taken back by her husband after she married somebody else, she is not rendered possible by that, nor is her kid. The Bible also passes that in Vomistach Memdal, we had it recently. She's not rendered unfit. She transgresses to the Raisa, but she doesn't become a Zoina, nor does her kid become Chol. So since that's the case, so therefore, if that's the criterion, that it's either her and her kid or the Ksuva, so she's got to lose her Ksuva in this case. Okay? So there's a Zu Elvin Anklas, Biyada, Biyada Vlat, Lefil Ein Lo Ksuva. Rabbi Yaakov Arachar Omar, Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Ilo Tarvein Omrin. Now, from here to the end of the parak, there are a lot of Girsa changes. We'll try and just barrel through without them. Rabbi Yaakov Omar, Rabbi Zir, he said, Rabbi Zir, Rabbi Ilo Tarvein Omrin, they both said, B'mzonos pleading. If the Amon Kohen Gadol gets Mizonos or not is a machlokas. Rabbi Yochanan Yeshlo Mizonos, she gets sustained during the course of the marriage. Amar Lo, Rabbi Lezer says, Amar Lo, see, we tell him, kick her out. Vatam Rachein, you say she gets fed. Why should she get fed? We wanted to kick her out. We want the marriage to terminate. Have a boy member, they wanted to say, it's a new issue basically. Madamar, at the end of that question. Madamar, B'tnai Ksuva Pligan. That there's a Mandamar who says that they are about Tanai Ksuva. Not just about Mizotis, but about additional, to Tosefes Ksuva. Well, we add on to one for Ksuva is Machlokas. Rabbi Yochanan Yeshlo Tanai Ksuva. He added on. That's true, she's forbidden to him. But he added on because he loved her. He's got to give that to her, right? Amar Rabbi Lezer says, Kol HaMoedim She'ela Mizoinos. Everybody agrees that she doesn't get mizornos. Now it must mean the way we should look at it. B'yosher konsu, kosh came back. They find her heirs, meaning there is no Tanai Ksuva, and therefore they also find her as well. Why her heirs? Because one that's Tanai Ksuva is banim dichri, right? That she predeceases her husband, her children should get her Ksuva. So let us say. That's the night Ksuva she doesn't have. Because she's forbidden. And certain Mizonos itself she doesn't have as well. Okay? So one follows the other. Right? If they find her heirs after she's dead, that they don't get Ksuvas Banim Dirchen, so they must find her that she doesn't get Mizonos. So basically it's the same as before, but adding on to night Ksuva. Rabbi Yochanan, she has Mizonos, Rabbi Lezer holds she doesn't. Rabbi Yochanan holds she has night Ksuva, Rabbi Lezer, she doesn't as well. However, he says machlokas been by mizonos, but Tanai Ksuva lo. Do they not argue by Tanai Ksuva? No, it's the original shita that the machlokas is only by mizonos, not by Tanai Ksuva. What do they hold? Yes, ba konsu lo konsu b'yarsheh. They find her, and she loses her mizonos. But if she kicks the bucket, why do we have to find her kids? They didn't do any thing wrong. So therefore, she loses mizonos while she's alive. That's Rabbi Yochanan's perspective. Rabbi Lezer's perspective might be she loses mizonos so she's alive, but her heirs can get her Tanai Ksuva after she's dead. Or if she has a Tanai Ksuva, she can get it after the marriage terminates. So the bottom line is that we have two versions. One of the machlokas is only by mizonos. One is that the machlokas is also by Tanai Ksuva. He holds it's only by the mizonos, not by Tanai Ksuvas, because you only find her while she's married and not her heirs, or I guess her after she's married as well. Okay? Adjon Aloch, whatever parak that was. Hamoni Zoner. New parak. Hanose Seisha. Excuse me. A man marries a woman who paska imo, and she made a condition with him, a stipulation. This is a prenup. She yazun as bita. She had a daughter from another marriage. She yazun as bita chamei shonim. That he's going to feed her kid for 5 years. Now, the problem is that the second marriage didn't last for 5 years. So tough. He undertook the required responsibility. He's got to feed her for 5 years, right? He's this lacher. Now, before those 5 years are up, she marries a third guy. And she stipulates 5 years with him as well. He also has got to give 5 years. He can't say, the first guy whose marriage was already terminated can't say, well, she was in my house, I feed her, but she's now in the house of your next husband. He's got to bring her food wherever she was, because a contract is a contract. You stipulated a contract. It's just tough luck.
His daughter's getting federal by 2 years.
Right.
This is not like baseball free agency.
But it probably works as with
The minimum between what the second one gives versus the first one has to give.
I bet you works this way in family court.
Maybe.
Okay.
Works this way in certain shoes.
Too late. Also, two they count together and say, you know, like, we'll do it together in corporation. One has to feed her, another gives her the value of her mizonos. Basically, she gets double. She had a shrewd mother. She gets double. What makes him liable? It was a condition which was under mistaken, well, not false pretenses, but mistake. He thought he'd be married to this woman forever and ever. He didn't know that the marriage would be on the rocks in 2 years, right? So what makes him chayiv? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Reishim in Lagish Tarvein Omi the both said, "Hakoyser shtarchov." Actually, it's part of the question. Then Rabbi Yochanan Reishim in Lagish Tarvein Omi they both say, "Hakoyser shtarchov chavero." So he writes a loan, a bill loan on his friend, because he assumed he owed him money. V'nimtza shein chaylo, he found he didn't owe him money. Ain't no chayav l'itilu, he doesn't have to give it to him. So there's also mistaken premises. So Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar also so Toseves Ksuva. No, it's not a mistaken premise. It's like additional Toseves Ksuva. We write into every Ksuva today. V'tzove le chasadinan vosi valdi midile old kesem me's cooking kesem tzoruf. Right? Every chassan nowadays adds on 1,000 cooking silver as Toseves Ksuva. Because he wants to marry the woman, so he adds on. It's a formula nowadays, but it's standard. So this they made part of the Toseves Ksuva as well. This is part and parcel of his love and courtship of this woman to offer her more money and more sweeten the pot. Right? Okay. So it's not a mistaken premise. So it says Gemara V'yitein Baso. So wait a minute. Toseves Ksuva, the 100 cooking kesef tzarf, which we write into the document. When is that payable? After divorce or death, right? It's not payable during the lifetime. So let's say that this money, the meter for this mizona should only start ticking after he divorces or the wife or he dies. Just like all Toseves Ksuva only kicks in after the termination of the marriage, this Toseves Ksuva should also only kick in after the termination of the marriage. Says the Gemara, no, also so kikidushe isha. They made it like the marriage. They're actually making this up as they're going along, but they made it like the marriage itself. It's like the marriage itself, the ring. You give it the beginning, so too this is part of the ring. It has elements of Toseves Ksuva that's written to the Ksuva, but it has elements of the ring itself in that it takes place immediately. Okay? So it says more if that's the case. Let him dump all 5 years at once. Who says he could string it out for 5 years? Maybe just like the ring, you give the whole ring at the ceremony, so she has to give all 5 years worth for the food as once. So it says, well, also again, we're making it, we're making it up as we go along, but really, this is all logical. Also, so kimikasha isha, they may have somebody who marries a woman almanas on a condition. Litain law shneimasar dinar zav b'shana, to give her $12 a year. Lios malo medinar zav l'chodesh, $1 a month. So it's just like a stipulation. Is it really better for income tax?
Income averaging.
Yeah, better. Okay.
You don't want a big lump sum that you pay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is basically what it is. Tani, we learned. Zara chamesh shanim or rishonim. Now, he's got to feed her for the first 5 years of his marriage. Bein b'yoker, bein b'sol. Whether food is expensive or not, or cheap during that time. Now, it means more than that, though, as the coordinator points out. Let's say for the first 5 years, he wasn't able to compensate her because she was away or something like that. So when he makes it up for her, he makes it up based on those 5 years. Whereas if for those 5 years, it would have cost $40,000 to feed her. And the next 5 years, it would have cost $30,000 to feed her. He's got to give her $40,000. Even though he's only paying up 5 years later. And vice versa. The first 4 years, it would have cost $30,000. Now it costs $40,000. He's got to give her only $30,000. So the meter starts ticking based on the first 5 years after he married the mother. Okay? Says the Gemara, if, however, there are exceptions, one exception. If the price was high and went down, if he caused to delay for the first 5 years, he gives like the first 5 years, which are more money. However, for some reason she wasn't around to accept the money, then we give him a leeway. No seems though he gives like the cheaper sum of the next 5 years. However, if they were the cheap in price and they went up in price, whether she is the cause or he is the cause, no seems though we give the lower price. So this is as we learn, Habas lo ola v'lo yoredis. The daughter doesn't go up and doesn't go down. In other words, it goes always by the first 5 years, with the exception of the one case where he is the impediment and the price went up, there we make him pay more. But otherwise, they always go by the first 5 years. Okay? Oh no, that's... Yeah. Says the Gemara, Tamati, let's over there. Benon Nukvan Diavin Chaminoi is another tonight suba. Husband writes, daughters that shall have from you, Yoniasum Bebesi, Umitzah Minachasi will sit in my house and be supported from my property. The Tyler Allah could say this, or could say this to the Brisa, that Umitkasim Miksusi, that also we add, that they also write into a clause that they get clothing from me. So in that case, where a father is supporting his daughter, Maisi Yadea Bas Shomi, who gets the handiwork of the daughter? He's supporting her, right? Who gets the handiwork? So it says, Manishmin Me'ado. So from here. Nises, if the girl in our Mishnah, a stepdaughter, right? Tonight I talk about a daughter, right? Okay, we started talking about a daughter. Let's go back to a stepdaughter. The stepdaughter, to whom you promised 5 years, gets married. Of course, her husband is learning koilo, right? So, right? So, her husband has to feed her. The one who's learning koilo. But hey, nice law, the main mizonos. Her two stepfathers, who guarantee her 5 years each, they still have to support her. So she's getting support, she's getting food from her husband, and support from her two ex-stepfathers, or one current stepfather and the ex-stepfather as well. Hadamara, now this teaches us, however, since her husband is chayv in mizonos, he's getting Maisiyah there, right? Adamara Zona, he's got a supporter, who Maisiyah there Shabala. And the Maisiyah Daim goes, of course, to the husband who's giving her Mizonos. So that means that Mizonos and Maisiyah Daim are not contingent. Even if a father, not just stepfather, it seems, if a father is supporting his daughter, the Maisiyah Daim are not automatically his. Now, if she's a minor, up to 12 and a half, the Maisiyah Daim are his, because he owns her, right? But if she's over 12 and a half, and he's supporting her because he accepted that reception, accepted that condition in the Kesuva, because it said, "B'no nukvan, the Yavin l'chaminoi, Yoliasim v'veisim mitzim d'chosei, muskasim mitzusi," and the way it continues, although it's not put down, is ad tilachon legufrin, until they get married. So even though it's above 12, so once they're above 12 and a half, though, the Maisiyah Daim he has no rights over. Even if she's not married, right? Because his rights over his daughter terminated 12 and a half. Even though he's mechayiv himself in the Kesuva to continue to support her, his rights over her to get her Maisiyah Daim terminated. That you get to do. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef said, Adamara, this teaches us, Pasak Lazun Kalaso, if a man accepts upon himself to sustain his daughter-in-law, his wife's son, Zona, he has to sustain her, Maisiyah Yoder no. The Maisiyah go to his son. Okay? Period. New issue. Rota Shetavo Etzlo. Vienna Rota. Getting back to his daughter. He wants her to come live by him. And then he says, I'll support you. He doesn't want to. She doesn't have to. Tough. Now, there's a line missing here. The Ben Ari in the bottom brings it out. Just read it outside. He Omer smokes. She says, I'm not living with you. I want money from you. I want cash. Especially because her husband's a koilo. Omer Peros. He says, I want to send you food stamps. Not food stamps. Food stuffs. Right? I'll send you canned goods. So, Real Mayor's Paris, Hadini Mo. She's within her rights. Now back to the Gemara. As we learned, says in our Mishnah that the guy, if she's not present, she can force him to give her money. If she gets sick, it's as if she's married. And it's that she can't eat because she's not healthy, so he has to give her money. Mesa, what happens when she dies? What happens? And the 5-year contract is still in effect. So what happens to the money? Commotion. It's like she's married, and the money still has to be paid out, and it goes, I guess, to her husband or to her heirs or something like that. Says no. Mesa, for Mesa, she's dead. The contract terminates upon her death. Okay? Nises. Now again, we're getting back to the case, the same case. Nises, this woman got married, the stepdaughter. The husband supports it. It's a case we just put down in one before. And the stepfather and ex-stepfather have to give her money as well. Mesu, if they die, the wives. The fathers. The fathers die. Mizonos saying their own daughters, Mizonos in the Chasim Nechorin, get support only from free and clear property. But the stepdaughter, Mizonos in the Chasim Shubadim, she's sustained from property which is under lien to other people as well. Why? She's better off because they're into her ksuva. So she's a creditor. She's got rights more than her own daughters. Hapichis, what did smart people do? They wrote in the ksuva of this new wife, as long as you're with me, not once you go to somebody else, right? Tonight ksuva is custom shtar. If you wrote a tonight ksuva into a shtar, Rabbi Yaakov Barach Amar, Yispav Rabbi Yochanan Shemilog Shmachlokas. Rabbi Yochanan Chizu Kisavan, it fortifies the tonight, but it doesn't make it a shtar chov. Rabbi Shimon Lakish or Malik Vosim Mishubanim someone. Yes, it does collect like a shtar chov, even for a property under lien. Rabbi Yirmiyah Machlish Motz, Rabbi Yirmiyah switched the opinions. Rabbi Yirmiyah Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, Masnisa Misayim Anam Al Chizuk. Our Mishnah sustains, he said only is a chizuk and not a shibud. The chizuk saban. How so? The tzina tamon, actually not our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is against it. It's more there. But another Mishnah, I'm getting it says, Eimotzian lachilas peros, one cannot extract property in order to pay for fruit which was consumed, or lishvach karkos for the improvement of land, ulamazon ish labanos, and for the money of to sustain a woman and her children, the daughters, from property under lien, and now, without getting into the other issues there, but it says, which is a Tanai Ksuva, you can't extract from the Chasim Shubarim. Lo Bishtar is now with the document, so here with the document, it's not considered to be like a Bishtar Chov, and you don't collect from the Chasim Mishubarim. Our Rabbi China said no. But look at our Mishnah. Mivnei Shikabalas Chov says in our Mishnah explicitly, Tanai Ksuva is like a Balas Chov. Lo Bishtar, Vacha Bishtar. So our Mishnah argues, our Mishnah holds that it's talking about a document, and when it's written into a document, it's like it is actually a Shtar Chov. So it seems to me a machlokas between the Mishnayos, which is a machlokas between the Amoraim. Some old Tanai Ksuva written to a star is like a Baal Chov. Some old Tanai Ksuva written to a star is not like a Baal Chov. Okay, we better stop here, otherwise we're going to get caught up on board.
So if there's a wedding and no one's going to be here tomorrow, maybe we should learn the basic school.
No, people will be here. Not everybody's invited. I think it's not so many people are invited.
What connection does Vilna have with Yeshiva?
He's the guy, the chosis mechanic, very tall guy, mechanic, Cleaver.